Alright, so let's look at the quiz. So that's also an easy one. Which of the integrity constant violation is possible by a delete statement? So here also this one is an easy one because as we discussed, by delete statement cannot create a constant violation, key constant violation and entity integrity violation. It can cause only the referential integrity violation. Now the thing is that let's see, we're trying to delete a record and that will cause a violation. Then what we can do, I mean what is the remedy that we can take care of from our database? Okay, here we have three options. Okay, we are going to see how we are going to implement them in chapter 4, but here we have three options that by which we can take care of any constant violation. These three options, the first option is the restrict option, means that will reject the operation. The second one is the cascade option, means you can delete the record that you are want to delete, but then it is going to do some cascade operation, that it is going to it is going to implement some more update operation, okay, to remedy the violation. Okay, the set null operation is also like the cascade operation. That means it will allow you to delete the record that you want to delete. All right, but it will additionally run some additional operation that will remedy the violation. So let's see how each of the option works. The first one is the restrict, means it will reject the operation. For example, the operation that will create the constant violation, like delete department with DNO 1. So as we talked about that in our last segment, if we delete the department 1, all right, so that will create a constant violation because there are some employee who works in department 1. Then those employee is going to for those employee, they are going to work in department 1, but that department 1 doesn't exist in the department table. Okay, all right, so that will be a foreign key violation for the employee table. All right, the restrict operation is going to simply reject the operation. All right, so the database is going to tell is no, that's not possible. Okay, so the database is just going to tell you that's not possible, you cannot delete that, just reject the operation, means the DNO1 has to be there. Okay, because there are some a table which is referencing that attribute, okay, which is referencing that value. So restrict means simply reject the operation. Now there are two other options. First, the first one of them is cascade. Cascade is going to propagate the deletion by automatically deleting the referencing tuples. That means, for example, say you want to delete the department 1, means say you are closing the department. Okay, now this is going to allow you to delete. Okay, so what happens, the delete table, the department will not exist anymore. That means actually for example, you want to just completely delete the department, okay, closing the department, and you want to also fire all the employee. Okay, means all the employee which works in department 1, they will also be deleted. Okay, so this is the cascade operation, means the cascade operation, the deletion will be propagated in the tables which are referencing these tables. Okay, that means actually allowed to delete department number 1, also this will delete employee SSN1 and 2, because SSN1 and 2, they are using the DNO value 1. Okay, it's simply like you are closing department and also you are firing all the employee from that department. Okay, All right. Now the third option is set null. Okay. So looks like that's not something we want. Means let's say we are closing the department, so we want to delete the department. Okay, so it is going to allow you to delete the department. So you delete the department. Okay, now what you are going to do, you want to think about what the employees 1 and 2 they are, where they are going to work. You are going to just assign the value to null. The value you delete for department number 1, those value where the employees are working for those value, okay, for those department, you are going to assign the value to null. Okay, now you do not know, that means now actually those employees are unassigned. You are going to assign the department maybe later. Okay, maybe in a different department. Okay, you will think about that later. But when you are going to delete a so when you are going to delete a attribute which will create the foreign key constant violation, you are going to set the foreign keys of the referencing tuple to null. Okay, all right. So in that case, the requirement is that the foreign key cannot have a not null constant. Okay, so it will not be possible. For example, so for example here, when we creating the table, we are saying that the DNO constant, it's a not null value. It has a not null constant, mean the DNO cannot be null. Okay, if it has the constant, in that case we cannot actually use this operation, because here we are using null, we have to allow null for this department. Okay, all right. So here are three options that we can actually use to take care of the constant violation. Okay, now update operation. Update operation means update modifies the value of an attributes in one or more existing tuples for the relation. For example, like you have employee table. Now employee works SSN. So employee 1 works in DNO 2. Okay, but you are going to reassign that employee, and you are going to reassign the employee to department 3. Okay, so then you are going to update the value. Okay, update the DNO 2 to 3, I mean update the DNO to 3 where SSN equals to 1. All right, now let's see, we have department table where DNO is the primary key. Okay, and we have 3 department. All right, so first of all, update may violate domain constant. Okay, and not null constant. Now for example, DNO has a not null constant, and you are trying to update the DNO null for an employee, so that will violate the not null constant. Or DNO has to be an integer value, and you are trying to update the DNO like with some character value, that will also violate the domain constant. Okay, so update can violate domain constant and not null constant. So we have to find out whether other constant may be violated or not. So what happens if we are trying to update a primary key? Okay, so you have a table, each table has a primary key. So what happens if we are trying to update a value for an attribute which is a primary key? Okay, so update means actually it's like similar to delete followed by an insert. Okay, for example, I'm deleting a record with SSN 1 and then I'm inserting a new record with SSN 2. Okay, so that means it will be deleted and it will be updated with SSN 2. Okay, so update is similar to delete followed by an insert. Now the thing is that what happens if we update the primary key of a table? Okay, can it violate any kind of constant? So as we are saying that this is similar to a delete followed by an insert, so that means insert can cause key constant violation and entity integrity violation. If we are going to trying to insert a new record with duplicate value, it can duplicate value for the primary key, it can create a key constant violation. And if we are trying to insert a value with null for primary key, it will create a entity integrity violation. So if we are going to update a primary key, all right, it can cause both of the violation. For example, like you have ssn, okay, let's use the department table. You have let's see, you have department with dno 1, 2 and 3. Now you are trying to update the dno value, update the dno 1 with value 2, okay, with value 2. So you want to update 1 with 2, okay. So that will create a key constant violation, okay, because now you have two same value for department number. Now if you, let's say you are trying to update the dno with null, that will create an entity integrity violation, okay. So updating a primary key, that as this is similar to a delete followed by insert, that will create a key constant violation and entity integrity violation, okay. Now let me ask you, updating a primary key, can it violate a referential integrity violation? So let's see, I have here, so let's see, I have here department 1, 2 and 3, okay. I'm updating the department 1 to 4, okay. Now it's not violating any key constant because all the values are unique, all right. Now I have some employees who works in department 1. So what happens? I do not have any department 1 in department table. So that means that will violate the referential integrity constant violation if we update a primary key, okay. If the primary key is being referenced by another table, another relation, that will violate a, that can violate a foreign key constant or referential integrity constant. So one remedy can be the cascade option, okay. The cascade option means when you are updating the value 1 to 4, okay, now update the value 1 to 4 for those relation which is referencing this table. So now the employee 2 and 3 is going to work in department 4, not in department 1. So this is the cascade operation, all right. So this is the cascade option which will propagate the new value of the primary key to the foreign keys of the referencing tuples automatically, okay. Now updating a foreign key may violate referential integrity constant, okay. So how is that? So let's see one example. So if we update any value for the foreign key, that can also violate referential integrity constant, because for example, let's say I am here, employee has the dno which is the foreign key referencing dno from department, okay. Dno is the primary key here. Now I am updating the value of 1 to 4, okay. Now I am saying that employee 1 works in department 4, okay. So what happens? Department 4 doesn't exist in department table, okay. So that is going to cause a referential integrity violation, okay. So that doesn't have actually any other remedy, only we have to reject that operation, okay. Now if we are going to update any ordinary attribute which is not part of any primary key or foreign key, so that can only violate domain constant or not null constant. So updating any attribute which is not part of any primary key or foreign key, okay, that will not create the violation, a key constant violation, entity or referential violation. That can only violate domain or not null constant. All right, so so this is our end of discussion of relational database. So here what we saw, the summary of this chapter is that we presented the relational model concept. We saw different type of definitions. What is relation, what is relational model, what is relational database. We saw the characteristics of relation. We discussed the relational model constant and relational database schema, okay. We talked about different constant which are domain constant, key constant, entity integrity constant, and referential integrity constant. We describe the relational update operations and dealing with the constant violation. Okay. All right. Next, we are going to actually solve a class exercise. All right, and we are going to have a quiz in our next class.